got a feeling that you could use some good news about the election and Kamala Harris's campaign right now. I got you. Hi, everyone. I'm Shauna Presley Vircher, the political fixer, and I'm on the road right now in beautiful upstate New York, where the leaves are turning and there are Kristen Gillibrand and Harris Walls signs as far as the eye can see. But my team and I are keeping a close eye on this election coverage. So I'm here today to make my case as to why you should just ignore the polls and most of the legacy media coverage because this isn't even close. Much of the media is saying that this race is too close to call and razor thin. But I'm telling you, based on the data that we're seeing, and based on what we're seeing on the ground, and based on every bit of the years of experience that I have doing this, not only is this race not going to be historically close, if we all do our jobs and push through to the end, what we're about to make happen is going to be historically epic. All right, let's start with lawsuits. Oh, I zigged when you thought I was going to zag, didn't I? Well, hear me out. Dozens and dozens of lawsuits have been filed by MAGA minions with one goal in mind: silence our votes. But good news, it's not working. In Michigan, some Republican voters and the Republican National Committee sued to kick more voters off of those voter rolls. The reason, you're going to love this, is because so many young voters under the age of 30 registered to vote this time that it had to be fraudulent. Well, that case got kicked right out of court. They had zero evidence. And all of those young people who actually did register to vote, who do you think they're about to vote for? Now, in Virginia, they did do a voter purge, and you're not supposed to be able to do that 90 days out of an election or closer because there's no way to remedy those purges. That went to court, and Governor Youngkin said that he had the executive power to just ignore that law. A judge disagreed. She not only blocked them from doing future purges, she said that they had to restore the voters that had already been purged from the lists and go one step further, reach out to them and let them know that they could cast their ballots in this election. She made it known in no uncertain terms that this was illegal and not to try it again. In Michigan and in North Carolina, MAGA filed lawsuits to try to prevent overseas votes from counting. Now, this could have impacted dual citizens, Americans traveling abroad, and our military families. So much for backing veterans. Judges in both cases dismissed those lawsuits, said they had absolutely no evidence that they were warranted, and essentially told them that it was nonsense they needed to get out of their courts. So the overseas ballots will count. I know a lot of you have been worried about Georgia. We had some electors that were saying that they would not certify the results if they disagreed with them, and there were also some attempts to make chaos on election night by saying that Georgia had to hand count all of their ballots. Well, a judge blocked the requirement for hand counting ballots. So no worries there. They will not have to hand count all of those ballots on election night. And another judge blocked the attempt for electors to say that they would not certify the elections. That judge made it perfectly clear that that attempt to not certify the election was illegal and that it would not be tolerated. Currently, there are still dozens of lawsuits outstanding, but don't worry, there are teams of volunteer attorneys that are on top of it. You can follow all of this and see the over 30 victories that they've already accomplished by going to Democracy Docket's website. Now, there's something else that I want to show you. There's been a little bit of hand wringing because there have been so many more Republican voters who have shown up for early voting than we expected compared to 2020. Well, I think there's a reason for that. MAGA has stopped telling their voters not to vote early. It turns out that when you tell your own base to stay home, it doesn't work very well as an election strategy. So without that drumbeat saying don't trust the mail and don't vote early, then I believe that a number of these voters that are voting now registered Republican are actually election day voters that are just using the convenience of early voting. And the data supports that. Almost all of the Republican turnout that we've seen are repeat voters, not new voters that are voting for the first time. And MAGA is assuming that these Republican votes are going to them, and we know that's not the case. We've seen story after story of Republicans that have come forward and said that certain actions taken by her opponent are a bridge too far, that they are voting for Kamala Harris. On top of that, Kamala Harris recently had a rally with dozens of Republican officials in Pennsylvania saying that they have looked at her opponent, that they know him, some of them, better than anyone else does, and that they are strongly encouraging their supporters not to vote for her opponent and to cast their vote for Kamala Harris. but there's one in particular I want to call your attention to. A couple of days ago, the mayor of Waukesha in Wisconsin openly endorsed Kamala Harris and said that he was, quote, terrified of what would happen if her opponent won, citing the insurrection as one of the things that brought him over to the Harris side. Now, let me put some context on this. This is a mayor of one of the largest Republican cities in the largest Republican county in all of Wisconsin. Do I think that all of his voters are going to suddenly switch over to Harris? No, but some of them will. And we're seeing this across the country. And keep in mind, it is not Kamala Harris who needs to find new votes. President Biden won the election in 2020. It's her opponent that needs new voters to side with him. And he's hemorrhaging his core base of support, Republican males. Now, where are his new votes going to come from? Where are these new voters that are switching to him? Where are the independent moderates that are suddenly voting for him for the first time? They do not exist. And this is one of the many reasons I think we're going to see huge results, not just for Kamala Harris, but in the congressional races as well. So why is the media telling us otherwise? Why do they keep insisting that this race is razor thin? Well, normally this is where I would talk to you about the media being a business and then wanting us to tune in, but we have new information that's even more sinister and candidly more disgusting. Multiple reports are coming out that the Washington Post may not endorse a candidate at all during this election cycle. And the reason is because their owner, Jeff Bezos, is supposedly worried that if they endorse Kamala Harris and her opponent wins, that he may lose his precious government contracts. One of the sources of this information is pretty reliable. He's a former editor at the Washington Post. This, my friends, is what we would call in Texas being yellow-bellied. Now, on top of all of the corporate greed we had to worry about before of legacy media, we now have to worry about the cowardice of their owners as well. Okay, got it. We see you. So let's just move forward and ignore them. To channel another fellow Texan here for just a moment, they will not break our souls. She is that girl, and these mothers are not stopping her. So I need you to channel all of your energy, get up and move. Do what you can in these final days to bring this home, and let's bring in the next renaissance in this election. If you feel like anyone else could use a positive boost with this information today, please like and share this video with them. And in the meantime, please follow me at Political Fixer. I'm Shauna Presley Vircher, and we are going to continue to bring you insights and intel into this historic election. I'll see you soon.